Can everyone see that, the PowerPoint? Yep, okay, good. All right, so I wanna thank Karina for asking me to come and present this information to you all. I know that in the chat, she did put the worksheets that you're gonna see that I'm referring to. Those worksheets, you'll see them in some videos that I'm gonna play a couple of clips that go along from a workshop that I did, I think earlier this year. So let's start. The workshop is also, we're going to concentrate on critical thinking. MCC has a goal for all students to become a critical thinker in all aspects and disciplines. And so for this presentation, we're going to combine stated truths and facts to make arguments. We're going to develop ideas or create processes. And then interpret data and draw conclusions. Also recognize bias and opinions, and act in a way that questions assumptions. So I'm going to go through the presentation, and then we're going to touch on each one of these individually. Just a little bit about me. Prior to my life at MCC, I did own and operate my own business. In my business, I was a financial consultant. I had a private practice. I helped people get out of debt as well as create budgets. And typically what would happen is somebody would come to me and they would think that they only needed one and not the other. They would say, oh, I'm fine with budgeting. I just really, I want to help my kid pay for college, so I need to get out of debt and pay off my house and my car and all that. And then as we went through the process to create a debt elimination plan for them, they would say, oh, that's in 6 years. My kid's going to college in 5 years. What can we do to get me out of debt faster? I said, well, you need to budget. And then there were folks that would come and say, I really don't have any debt issues. I just have budgeting issues because, I just have a car payment and a house payment, because they kind of didn't look at that as debt. And then when we would go through their budget and see that they didn't have enough money, it would be, you need to get out of debt, because the faster you get out of debt, the more time you have for the money that you are applying towards your debt payments to, in their case, help with the kid to go to college or to be saving. So I am the department chair and instructor of business here at MCC. I am very active on campus. I work with the men's basketball team. I'm also with the success coaches, part of the team that created the student mentoring program that is now in its third semester. And I am a mentor. I do have 2 mentees. All right, so practical household budgeting. That's what I was asked to talk to you about today. The clips that I'm going to show you, again, they're from a video, and if anybody wants the full video link, we can get that to you as well. We have that, I believe it's on the MCC YouTube channel, but we can get you the link. That video, I talk about a lot about debt elimination and then budgeting. And so today I'm going to concentrate more on the practical household budgeting. Some of the keys to being able to budget is you need to track your spending. What do I mean by that? You need to know what you're spending your money on, okay? So many people will say, I don't know what I spend on Christmas. I don't know how much I spend on clothes. And so what we always recommend is that you get a little spiral notebook, or you can track it on your phone, and you want to track every penny that you're spending. Even if it's, hey, 75 cents for this protein water. You want to do that for a full month. Okay, because there might be some expenses that you have at the end of the month that you don't have at any other time. People don't like to do this, right? Because it is a commitment to every day tracking your spending. But again, you can't even start to budget if you don't know where your money is going. And so many people don't do that. Then the other piece of the practical household budgeting process is that we look to match your pay dates to your due dates. And you'll see more about that in the video that I'm going to play here in just a second. And when we're doing that, we're using what we call the 3-day rule. The 3-day rule says that anything that is due within 3 days of my payday, I pay that bill with that payday. So for example, if I get paid the 1st and the 15th, anything that is due from the 4th to the 17th of the month, I'm paying with my paycheck that I got on the 1st, okay? And then when I get paid on the 15th, I'm paying everything that is due from the 18th to the 3rd of the month, okay? You only have to do this once. The only time that you would rematch your paydays and your due dates is if something changed drastically, right? If, well, I'm no longer getting paid the 1st and the 15th. Now I'm getting paid every 2 weeks or every other week or whatever it is. It's not a set date. Then you would change it around. This will allow you to always have the money to pay your debts or your payment before it's due. You'll never again pay a late fee because you'll always have the money before the due date. And then you're going to see on the clip that I play, the first thing you do is you have a worksheet. You track your spending. You get all of that information together. You bring all of your statements together. You bring your pay stubs together, any bills that you have, you get those statements together, and you sit down and you'll work on this worksheet. You cannot move from the worksheet to actually creating the budget until it's what we call zeroed out, meaning that every penny that you have coming in is accounted for. So if I have $2,000 coming in, then I show $2,000 going out, and maybe 600 of that is in my savings, who knows, but it has to be zeroed out. This probably takes the longest when I would work with folks because we couldn't move forward until we were zeroed out. Also, this program is based on you looking at your spending for the entire year and budgeting every month. And what you'll do is you'll set the money aside. Let me explain what I mean by that. How many people here spend money on Christmas? Can you show of hands? We got people? Okay. Typically what happens is around September, people will say, oh, Christmas is 3 months away. I better start, putting some money away. And then maybe they don't. And then here it is, October 15th, and like, uh-oh. And so they either end up taking money out of savings or they put it on a credit card, right? Which we are absolutely not for credit cards. So what we say is that if I know that just to make the numbers easy, if I know that every year I'm going to spend $1,200 on Christmas, then in my budget should say Christmas, and I should be budgeting $100 every single month, okay? And that money, I'm actually setting it aside. I'm either going to set it aside in a savings account or I'm going to set it aside in a cash envelope, okay? And I'll explain that a little bit more. I think the video goes pretty good into explaining that. So I have this money, I'm setting it aside. So when it does come September, right, I have $900 for my Christmas. So if I want to take advantage of the Prime Day at Amazon from this past week, I have the money to pay for it. Does that make sense? Okay, and then on the budgeting, just as well as with the debt elimination, and I'm going to play a clip about this later when we get into the critical thinking part, but we do not believe in saving while you're trying to eliminate debt. If you do have any debt, any money, extra money that you have should be going towards paying off your debt. And then as soon as you pay off your debt, all of the money that you used to send to your debt, plus that savings money, then you start saving. Okay, and again, we'll talk more about that when we get into the critical thinking. So if you want to access the worksheet that Karina provided, and we'll get started. This clip is about 10 minutes. It really gets into the nuts and bolts of the budgeting.
Sherry, we can't hear anything.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We can't hear anything.
Oh, you can't hear anything? Okay, let's see. Hold on, let me stop sharing here so I can. I'm not sure why you can't hear it. I have it all the way. Okay, 1 second. Can you hear that? Okay, hold on. Okay, 1 second. Okay, maybe if I try to share again, hold on. Multiple, I've got my video. I mean, you can hear me, so that's okay. Hold on. If this doesn't work, then I will go direct to the YouTube, okay? So I have it in here to start exactly where I needed it to. So let's try that again. You hear it?
No.
Okay. So let me go to the YouTube channel. Sorry. Sorry about that. Let's see. Okay, if this doesn't work, I might have to have you try it, Karina.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, so I need to get to 36. Okay, so let me again try to screen share. And you should have the link as well, just in case it doesn't work. Maybe it's something on my end. I'm not sure why that's doing that. Okay. Okay, can you all see this YouTube? Okay, and now let me make it big and let's play this. Can you hear that?
No.
Okay. Do you want to try it on your end?
Sherry, try unsharing your screen and then share again, but go into the advanced settings.
Okay, hold on. Unshare, stop share, then share again. Yeah.
And then I think there's a place for advanced settings where it'll allow you to share your computer audio as well as your screen.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Optimize. Okay, let's see if this helps. Okay, can you all see this PowerPoint again?
Yep.
All right, let's see if this helps, if this works. Thank you, Megan. Look at you. Let's see. Hold on.
Make a little bit more sense when we see this family,
Can you hear it?
sample families budget worksheet.
That was a yes.
The next one, it's those 2 pages. I just condensed it.
Oh my goodness. Sorry. Okay.
Reach out to Kathy. She can get me a number and I can bring those into you. But the budget worksheet, that's for you to work on, but it'll kind of make a little bit more sense when we see this family, sample families budget worksheet. The next one, it's those 2 pages. I just condensed it so it could be on 1 page. The actual worksheet is 2 pages, just so you can write on there. And so you'll see that the first thing they're going to do is they're going to start with their incomes. Going to list who gets paid when and what it is that they're getting paid. Then they're going to list all their expenses. Their debts are last. And in your case on the worksheet, I put the debts on the back because one day, hopefully, you don't even have to use that back portion. And then what they've done is they've listed everything that they spend. Then if you look at the very bottom, they have their total income coming in, which is the total income from the top, their expenses, then their debts, and then it's zeroed out. Okay, this looks all nice and sweet, but for the typical clients that I worked with, this was hours. This was sometimes yelling, screaming, pulling hair, not my hair, because you can't move from the worksheet to create your budget until it's zeroed out. Every single penny coming in needs to be accounted for. The vast majority of the people that I worked for, that was a negative number. And so then we would have to go back and say, okay, what are we going to do? Well, we would know that we couldn't do anything with the debts. I couldn't call Visa and say, hey, Visa, is it okay if I send 150 instead of 180, right? They were going to say no. So we always had to do the vast majority of cuts in the expenses part. And what we tried to do is, instead of saying, okay, I need an extra 100, all right, we're going to take out the allotment. Somebody's not going to get allotment. We would try to take maybe $10 from 10 different areas, so as not to make it so dramatic on a family, okay? But the other thing about this budget is, this budget really is, that, as you can see, this is where we're looking at this family starting their budget. It's a monthly budget, but this really looks at what you spend throughout the year. I'll give you an example. let's go down to, let me find one here. Let's go down to gifts. They got gifts on here, right? Yeah. Okay, gifts. This says $200 a month, but then you can see in the notes section, this is Christmas and birthdays. They spent $1,200 a year on Christmas. And instead of waiting like what most people do in September and say, oh, Christmas is 3 months away, oh my God, we're going to get $1,200. Or October saying, well, I guess we're going to have to take it out of savings or put it on credit card. They were budgeting $100 every single month, and they were setting that aside. Okay, so this looks at, instead of people just looking, well, this is January, oh, I don't have any expenses for Christmas. You need to look at what you're spending throughout the year and add that number together and divide it by 12 and budget for it every single month. So when the expense comes up, you're not robbing Peter from Paul to pay Paul, you're not taking out of the savings, and you don't have to use your credit card, okay, because you've set the money aside. When you set the money aside, we recommend one of two methods. Anyone ever hear of the cash envelope system? Okay, either you put it in a cash envelope or you put it in an actual savings account or checking account. I would say savings because at least you're getting 0.003 instead of 0 of something. But the difference between the two is that if it's a expense that you use frequently, like say groceries, I go to the grocery store every week, and in this case you can see they budgeted $660 a month, which really then came out to like $330 every payday. But maybe they don't go all at once, they go every week, so you put it in a cash envelope because I'm using that money weekly. Or it's a smaller amount. Let's say that I only get my hair done twice a year, but I'm putting away with big hair like this, I need a gobs of money put away. No, maybe I only need to put $20 away. I don't want to have to keep going back and forth between savings and getting those out to pay for that. So if it's frequently used or a smaller amount, you would use a cash envelope. If it is like the Christmas money, that's $100. I'm not using that every month, right? I might start Christmas shopping in September. So I want to put that in some kind of savings account. I don't want that sitting in a cash envelope in my house. But that's how you would set those aside. I personally, and one of these days I was wondering, like last month, I wonder if one day I'm going to get rid of this, but I don't think so. I keep an Excel spreadsheet of my set. I have my different categories of money that I set aside. So my escrow or my homeowner's insurance, my taxes, Christmas, things like that, college. I set that aside every month, what was determined in the budget, and that's how I know when I got to pay something, I see it and I pull it out of there. So that's just me. I keep an Excel spreadsheet for that. Once this is 0, now when this particular family, and these numbers are from a real family that I helped years ago, they were lucky. They had $300 extra, and you can see here, initially it said $300, but we put it under accelerated margin. You can see that in there, so they had accelerated margin. Once you get to this point where you've zeroed it out, you will then turn around and create a budget like this. This is the worksheet, then this is the budget. And on the back of it, you have your budget sheet that you can, again, feel free to make copies of, okay? The first thing you have to figure out is how many times a month am I going to sit down and write my bills, okay? Write out my bills. I don't have any debt. I still hate writing out bills. Hate it, hate it, hate it. So we tell people the fewest times as possible, right? Because it's something we hate, just do it the 1 or 2 times that you can and get it over with. This family, if you look at their budget, they decided to sit down 2 times a month. And we do something that we call the 3-day rule. Okay, if you go back to the worksheet, you're going to see too, they had a column that said due dates. If something has a due date, you need to have that due date on there. So you can then go to this. What the 3-day rule says is that anything that is due within 3 days of your paycheck, let's say paycheck number 1, then you pay those bills with paycheck number 1. So using the sample families, so you can follow along with me, on the 1st of every month, they get, what is it, $21.65? I think I did my math right. $21.65, 82, right? her paycheck, his paycheck, 18, yep. And then on the 15th, they get another 2165.82. So on this one, they're paying everything, and let's say that they're gonna start their budget for February. They're paying everything that is due February 4th to the 17th. So anything that has a due date between these is what's being paid with the first paycheck of the month. The second paycheck of the month, they're paying everything that is due the 18th to the 3rd. So now we have all of the days of the month covered, okay? And by the way, you do not go back and recalculate this every month. A question that was asked, Anita asked about the budget, when would you, I mean, the debt elimination, the debt plan, when would you look at that? The budget, the only time I would go back and recalculate it, let's say I got a big raise. Let's say I had an addition built on my house and now my utilities are double. Oh my gosh, so I need to recalculate it. Only if something happens in terms of the funding, but you don't need to, once you do this, whatever I'm paying with this paycheck is the same February, March, April, May, June, July, and so on. You see what I mean? Okay, so now I'm gonna go here. The first thing I'm gonna do is, because the debts I have to pay, so I'm gonna go to my debts first. I'm looking for anything that has a due date in between this. I see my car is due, and it is, what is that? 207. Okay, because that's due the 13th, the 22nd. No, now I'm going back up here. I have my car insurance, and that is $47. I'm now going to keep going down this list until I reach $2,165.82. The first thing I'm going to do is anything that has a due date. And once I get all the due dates, then I'm going to put in, oh, here's food, here's entertainment, here's clothes, right? Because I can pick and choose when I pay these. I don't get to pick and choose when the electricity's due and the car insurance is due, right? They're telling me when it's due. So I might get everything that has a due date, and let's say I'm at $1,500. Well, then I have another $665, right? And then I'll figure out here until it equals $2165.82. And then I'll come here and do the same thing with the second time. Does that make sense? Any questions on that?
Okay. Any questions? Are there any questions on that part that we just saw? Did it make sense to you all?
Sherry,
Yes.
I think I had heard one time that you can, I don't know if this is true or not, but you can ask a credit card company or, you know, like a JCPenney or something to make your payments due, you know, like to set the parameters of your billing cycles. Is that true?
Yes, some of them will do that and work with you, but they wouldn't do it multiple times. They wouldn't say, you know, well, okay, this month it can be due the 6th, next month it can be due the 7th.
Right.
The
So
other thing is,
that helps with budgeting then.
sure,
For
absolutely.
younger people. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. Some, and again, it just, some will and some won't. I will tell you that if you call and it's something that you really need to do, because that's just how it works out with how and when you get paid. A lot of times when we call, they are trained to say no. No, you can't do this. No, you can't. No, we can't increase your line of credit. No, you can't. We can't lower that. No, we can't forgive that late payment. They're just trained to do it. So I would always ask, if the answer is no, to speak to the supervisor. And as I've always shared with my clients, you know, you obviously you don't want to lie, but make whatever story you're going to tell them the true story, as sad as it can be. Look, you know, I was out of work. I'm finally back to work, thank goodness, but I used to get paid on these days. Now I get paid on these days. Is there any way? Otherwise, I'm going to be late with this every month, and it's going to cause me even more money going out. You know what I'm saying? Did that make sense? Yeah? Okay. Sorry. All right. So were there any questions on that? And again, we will provide, so you can see the full 1-hour video that talks about the debt elimination first and talks about, goes into the budgeting process as well. And I'm going to show you another brief clip here in a minute when we talk about savings. But I wanted to look at the critical thinking aspect of budgeting at this point, unless you had any questions from the worksheet that you all downloaded, or the video clip that was just shown. Alrighty, then we'll move on to talking about the critical thinking. So part of critical thinking, it says, combine stated truths and facts to make arguments, develop ideas, or create processes. So the three that I really want to talk about, this gets a little bit into debt, but this does impact your budgeting. I want to talk about looking at truth and facts with mortgage, credit card, and car payments, okay? These probably provide the most damage to your financial independence. So let's first look at a mortgage, okay? Being a homeowner is awesome, and it is good for you. However, having a mortgage isn't, okay? This is the most damage to your finances. If you look at our example here, if you have a $200,000 mortgage at 30 years at a 6% fixed interest rate, I'm hoping everybody can see that if I can move this, you're gonna end up paying over $431,000 by just making that minimum monthly payment, okay? Over 30 years, you're gonna pay more than double than what the house was even worth. You're going to pay the $200,000 that you paid for the house and the $231,000 in interest. But the true damage really is, had you instead taken that money that you were paying over the 30 years and invested it, saved it in an account producing approximately 10% return, which they're still out there today, you would really have $1 million at the end of the 30 years. So this $200,000 mortgage equates to $1 million.
I have a question here.
Yes.
So, okay, so if this mortgage is such a major damage to my finances, then should I just consider renting instead of buying a home?
No, you want to own. You know, what you want to do is you want to look at, and I think I talked about this week, maybe in our class, Kit, not sure, but you all want to build a net worth, okay? Net worth is everything that you own minus what you owe on it. Okay, so if I have a $200,000 home and I just bought it, and now maybe I have, let's just say I've had it for a couple years, and now I owe 190 on it, and that's all I have. I don't have any savings, I don't have anything else, I have no other assets but that. My net worth is $10,000, right? Because I take the value of the home is $200,000, but I owe 190 on it. So my net worth is $10,000.
Wait, wouldn't that be like $1,000? Wait, never mind. That is $10,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
190. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, and as I'm getting older and as I'm eliminating my debt, it's getting more. So in 5 years from now, when I pay this off, right? Now I have a 200. Let's say the value of the home went up 10,000, so it's 210, but I don't owe anything on it. So now my net worth is 210. Does that make sense?
Okay, does that mean that we then have to account for inflation, since this is over a very long period of time and therefore the value of your money is dropping?
In terms of what you're investing it in? Because I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Well, so you mentioned putting it in an investment with investing this or saving this money with those kind of returns, but I mean the research that I've been doing shows that the interest or returns on most investments is not outpacing inflation. So even though your investment is technically growing, the value of that money is shrinking faster than it's growing.
But keep this in mind. This program it's based on a program called Debt-Free and Prosperous Living, okay? And you can look it up, you can Google it. John Commuta is the gentleman who created it. And his debt elimination program, you're probably familiar with Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman, right? His is a little bit different because when the handout that you have, when you look at that worksheet for the debt elimination plan, it's a 6-column or 7-column form. Not one column asks for the interest rate, because what he did is he created a mathematical equation to get you out of debt in the fastest possible time. He looks at time as the #1 enemy. And so the longer I'm paying whatever the house, $700 house payment, if I'm paying that for 30 years, that's 30 years I did not have for that money to be invested in growing for me. So whether inflation or not, do I want to just keep owing somebody and paying them, or do I want to be putting that in some kind of a savings or investment account where it's mine, if that makes sense? And I'm going to show a clip about savings again, and that might help too. If not, re-ask that question, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, more damage is credit cards. Let's say that, you bought that house that we were just talking about. Well, heck, you need new furniture, right? Anytime we get something new, we need new furniture. You don't have the $2,000 because you paid everything just to get in the house, so you're going to put it $2,000 on your credit card. Let's say you're making the minimum monthly payment. Can anybody guess how long you think that this would take you to pay off? It'll take you 31 years and 2 months to pay off the balance. You will end up paying over $10,000. That means you will pay over $8,000 in interest alone. And of course, I'm sure you're not going to still have that same sofa in 31 years from now, okay? So this is the difference between your money working for you versus against you. When we're living on credit and living on debt, our money's working against us. Again, $2,000 is going to cost me $8,000 in just interest. Then the last one that I wanted to talk about when we're looking at truths and facts is your car payment. If you pay an average of $300 a month on a car payment over your working lifetime, which we've always defined as 40 years, figuring you'll start really working and making some decent money at 20, and then you retire at 60, that's going to be over $168,000 that you will have paid in for car payments. Had you instead taken that $350 and invested it, you would end up with $1.2 million over that same time. Everything that we do here, it's the same amount. It's the same $350. It's the same 40 years, okay? So again, the difference between your money working for you versus against you. Now let's look at the critical thinking interpretation. Again, MCC's goal is that all students become critical thinkers in all aspects. So here under interpretation, they say they want you to be able to interpret data and draw conclusions. All right, so let's first talk about, there's really 3 things I wanted to talk about here: the federal law, student loans, and savings. The federal laws changed. If you and some of you may not be aware of this because it changed, I don't know, like 10 years ago. But federal laws changed where your creditors have to let you know now what the true cost of that credit card is costing you, or the true cost of that debt. If you look at your statements, any of you that have a credit card statement, somewhere on there, because federal law has mandated that they have to do this, it'll say, minimum payment, $17. And then it should say tell you on there how long it will take you to pay that off if you just paid the minimum amount. So you really want to look at what the cost in time is. Interpret that. Is that, okay, I know I want that furniture now, but do I really want to pay? Even if I didn't take the whole 30 years, right? Even if I just took 3 years to pay it off or 4 years to pay it off, I'm still going to pay more than $2,000. Every time that we use a credit card or we use debt to pay for something, and it's an interest rate that we're being charged, we always pay more than what that item was. Student loans, what is the true cost of that loan, okay? You need to look at, when you're looking at student loans, you need to, again, and this is a new one as well, that they are supposed to tell you from the time that starts, where you would have to be paying it off. A lot of times, you know, the student loans, those start collecting interest rate or earning, you're paying interest on them, even though you're not making a payment, right? Because, oh, but you're a student now, so you don't really have to start paying it until you finish college, which most people do because they don't have the money that they need right now. But you really need to look again at the cost of that. I worked with a young man about 1.5 years ago, and he has been out of college now for 8 years. He had over $60,000 in student debt, and so he's been paying on it for 8 years, right? He still owes more than $60,000. And when he saw that, because he was just making the payments, he said, "How can that be?" Well, because of the interest rate and because of the years that he didn't, even though his freshman year, he took out the loan, he didn't start paying on it until he was done with college. Right? It's a slap in the face. It's a true awakening when you look at that. And so again, this is where you need to ask those questions so you can figure out what is the best option for me. And then saving a little now, and then the difference it will make in terms of what I was saying earlier. If you have debt, you really shouldn't be saving money. You need to be putting that towards your debt so you can pay off your debt as fast as you can, okay? And let me show you this. I think I have to stop sharing and then redo the clip again so to make sure that you can hear it. Okay, let's see.
I have a question.
Yes.
So then how do you build credit? Because the reason why I have credit cards is because I build my credit with them. I have a little bit of balance on there. I just pay it off. I never use more than 30%. So am I doing the right thing by doing that?
That you pay it off every month?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. But you're the exception, not the rule. You know, that's what I did as well. Because of the fact most people don't pay it off every month, right? For me, I use my credit card on everything I can. We bought a boat and I used my credit card. And when we bought the boat, I remember we bought it at Bass Pro Shop and the guy said, you know, we can get you a loan. I mean, I put it on my Discover. I use it for everything that I can. And he said, yeah, but we could get you a loan for, you know, 4 or 5%. I'm sure you're paying more than that on your Discover card. I said, oh, you don't get it. I'll be paying it off next month when the bill comes in. And he's like, sure you will. And we did, you know. But yeah, if you can do that, that's great. But I like what you talked about earlier, how your parents, you were able to start building credit because they put you as an authorized user. Sometimes I know that Nicor Gas is one of the companies that reports to the credit bureaus. And I'll tell people, see if your parents will put you as, you know, the Nicor Gas in your name. Okay, you might have to pay a deposit because you don't have anything and you don't have any credit, and Nicor might look at you as a risk. But then when your parents turn it back over to their name, they would get the deposit back anyway. Okay, does that help? Okay, so let me get here, and I think, all right, and let's play this. It's a brief, about a minute clip.
But this family, once they took this, what is the total amount? The $2,794.83, right? They're out of debt. They got their 6-month emergency fund. In 5 years of investing, and I rounded it to $2,800, and I said approximately paying around 10% return, long-term investments, you can still easily find those. In 5 years, they would have over $216,000 in an investment account. In 10 years, still counting the time that they would have been paying on that mortgage, they would have over $573,000. 15 years, about the time that this family wants to retire, $1.1 million on just that $2,800, not counting all the other stuff. Hopefully they were, right, some of them were doing some other investments, $1.1 million. So that's kind of also why Mr. Commuta, when he came out of retirement and updated it, changed the name of Transforming Debt into Wealth, because then they really concentrated a lot on the wealth building.
Okay, yes, so that is, again, if you, as I said earlier, the system was called debt-free and prosperous living, but when he had retired and came out, and now it's referred to as transforming debt into wealth. And again, if you Google it, you'll be able to see that. Were there any questions on that, what I just shared? So if you look at your handout, you'll see that, again, their debt elimination plan, the sample families. And I will tell you this on that. What I would have you do is you want to read through every step of that sample family. See what it told them to do in A, and then what they wrote down. What did it tell them to do in B, and what did they write down? And depending on how quick you are with numbers, it could take anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes for you to really just read the sample family's debt plan. And once you get it, you can use that blank form that's in that packet to create your own debt elimination plan. So again, in their case, they had $2,800 that they were putting towards all of the debts that were listed there. They paid off their debts, I believe it was in the 6 years. And once that happened, they created emergency fund. We say that you should have a 6-month emergency fund. The emergency fund is equivalent to 6 months of your expenses. We tell you to do that after you're in debt, because then you don't need 6 months of a house payment, 6 months of a car payment. Your emergency fund while you're in debt is going to be huge. And again, then you're also going against the system, which is saving while you're eliminating debt. And then you start building that long-term wealth. In investments, in any, the first thing I tell people is you need to maximize every qualified retirement plan you can, because that is what allows you to, that is what allows you to get a break there on your taxes when you're putting as much as you can in your qualified retirement plans. Now, the government will say, right, because they're only going to let us put so much money. Sorry. Will only let you put so much money in those accounts. Sorry about that. And then you could invest in gold, silvers, other stocks that aren't qualified retirement plans. That's up to you. Any questions on that?
But you're talking about after you've reached your maximum limit, right, for the annual pre-tax, correct?
Correct.
And
Yes.
then you can invest more in whatever. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We invested in, I didn't want to share that. We invested in real estate as well, and it certainly has not been something I have enjoyed. And we have sold off a lot of our real estate properties that we've had over the years. It's tough being a landlord, whether it's commercial or residential, but a good investment. All right. The next critical thinking, which MCC has, recognized bias and opinion. So there's 3 of them here that I wanted to talk about. The dreaded B word, cash is king, and then savings again. We know a lot of times, as soon as you say budget, people think right away, uh-oh, I can't do something. They think it's going to be no, or it's going to be eliminate. You know, I can tell you that in all the years that I worked with families and individuals, I never had to tell somebody, you can't do that anymore. You know, you can't go golfing anymore. You can't go to the movies. You can't go to the monthly spa with your girlfriends anymore. What I would tell them is, you might not be able to go golfing twice a week anymore. Okay, so you have to really look at budgeting is a really financial plan to succeed. Okay, and keep in mind that you might have to make some small lifestyle changes. So, okay, I can't golf twice a week now. I can only golf once a week, or maybe I can only golf every other week. But as soon as you're out of debt, as soon as you've got everything under control, maybe you could golf 3 times a week. And then cash is king. You will always, always, always pay less when you use cash. Or if you do what I do and Ashley does, I use my credit card, I pay it off every single month, and I'm making some money. I prefer, and everyone has their reasons. Some people who like to travel, they like to do the, I forget what, Capital One card. I like the Discover. I like the points, the money back. It's up to you. You could do whichever one. But again, if you're using it, you want to make sure that you are never not paying the full thing off in a given month. And what I do is I actually, in my checkbook, and I know some of you guys are probably saying, what's a checkbook? I actually write in there when I charge, I'll put Amazon, $40, and it was for Christmas. And so then when I get my bill, I just void all those out and I write one check to Discover. And then of course, again, saving now is, if you can, you need to start saving immediately. But if you have debt, you need to be applying it towards your debt, get that debt paid off as fast as you can. And then you'll have that bigger amount that you would be saving.
I have a question.
Yes.
So especially with the pandemic going on right now, a lot of places are now shifting away from cash. Like even places I've seen like Meijer are starting to be very wary about accepting like actual paper money, coins, what have you. So with so many people switching over to electronic forms of payment, what's your take on alternative methods, PayPal, Venmo, things like that?
I don't particularly like them, but I would just pick the card that you want to use and use the card. I mean, that's what I do. I don't particularly care for ATMs. I consider an ATM card meaning another 20 missing, because it's so easy just to go in there and get 20 and get 20. And you're like, what did I spend that 20 on? At least when you're using a credit card, you can look and track and see, and you can say, wow, I can't believe it. We spent $500 this month on eating out. We need to really cut back on that. But either one of those, I mean, they're all fine. I don't particularly use it. I do use Zelle. I mean, I've got children that live out of state. And so when something happens, it's an easy way to, hey, happy birthday, and, send it to them. But that's the only one. I know there's other apps out there. Some of the athletes that I work with, that they're from other parts of the country, that's how their parents do. I guess there's Cash Me app or something, but I don't, I think they're fine. The only one that I use is Zelle. And then the last critical thinking, you're welcome. The last critical thinking was act in a way that questions assumptions. So I have 3 keys here. The first one is to read the small print. Don't sign if you don't know what it means. So when you're going to get, the furniture that says, hey, you can have this furniture, or you can get this TV and no interest and no payment for a year. Well, you need to read the fine print that also says, if you're after that year, if you're late one time, then all of that interest from the previous year goes back. So you want to really just always read the fine print on anything that you're looking at. And then the CYA, do you all know what CYA means? It means cover your you-know-what, or cover your butt, okay? This is follow up with everything in writing. So for example, when, I forget who it was that asked the question about, I think it was Karen, when she talked about, can I call and see if they'll change the due date? I would ask them for an email confirmation on that, or I would ask for their email and send them a confirmation. And, thanks for and I also recommend to my students to do this with their instructors. Cover your butt, get it backed up in writing. Thank you for allowing me to have that extension on that paper today, Professor Ridge. I appreciate it. Whatever. So if a week comes by and they say, I didn't say I'd give you an extension, or we didn't say we would change the due date, you have that. Okay. And then the bottom line, you need to flat out ask, what is this going to cost me? What is the total cost of this going to be? And how long is it going to take me? Okay, anytime you're purchasing something and you are using debt, because I'm sure a lot of you will in the beginning, and that's fine, because maybe that's how you got it. Nobody probably has, when they're right out of college, has $200,000 to go pay cash for a home. So go get that mortgage, but work on paying it off as soon as you can. I paid off my 30-year mortgage in 6.5 years. I took a $40,000 consumer debt that I had, credit cards, car payment, bought my first home in January or August of 1991, and January 19th, 1999, paid off all, I was completely debt free. My entire debt plan took about 8 years. Any questions? Boy, I'm just almost right on time here.
Sorry, I actually have one last question about property,
Yes,
since I know.
sure.
So if I may ask, when did you purchase your home?
My first home I purchased in August of 91.
Okay. So, I mean, ever since ever since the financial crisis, and then even right now, property prices are still going up, and it's actually pushing a lot of people out of the market. But you would still recommend owning a property, looking to own a property, or even looking to take out a mortgage, even in this bloated economy?
Well, I would recommend, again, in terms of your net worth and your asset, remember that you own stuff and don't rent it. Because again, when we rent it, you don't ever own it. It's never a plus to your net worth. If you have the cash and you can pay cash for a house, then great, do that. I can tell you that one of the last properties that we sold, and it was a killer for us because what we paid for the property and what we put in it, and we had it when we sold it, I want to say, and of course it was paid off. We paid cash for it, and the money we put into it was cash, but it was like $150,000. I think we paid $120 for it, and we put $30,000 into it. It was a rental property. Then we sold it. We sold it all those years later for $150. That was the best that the market was going to do at the time, and part of that was the reason why we sold it was just getting to be a headache after headache after headache. I did not enjoy having to call people all the time and say, your rent is late, your rent is late. And so that was one of the last properties that we sold.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a suggestion. One of my friends did when we were younger and they had bought their first home. She got her expensive dining room furniture, living room furniture, whatever it was, and it's 0% interest for like the first 2 years. Every single month, she actually wrote a check to the credit company from the furniture store. Did not date it, but she would put it in her cash register that money was already gone. And I just found that very interesting because I went to thought to use that concept, but for her, a visual of seeing that money is gone was better than 2 years from then coming up with the full amount or else paying the interest for 2 years. I just wanted to share that. I thought that was an interesting thing for so many years ago.
That is awesome. I like that.
I had a question about how you were talking about accounts with 10% return and everything. I currently have a 401k, but I'm trying to branch out and open up more accounts. Do you have any ones that you would recommend? And then my second question was, will we be able to get a copy of the presentation that you did today?
This presentation right here or the video presentation that's in the PowerPoint?
All of it.
Yes, we're recording this, so once it's done, I'm sure Karina will get it out. And if Karina, if you want to put in the chat or send it to everyone that's here, I'm sure you probably have their contact information. Send them the YouTube video. So Ashley, your investment question, and you'll see this when you watch the full video. I was in charge of our, obviously the budgeting and the finances. That's one of the things too I recommend is whoever's the best with that should be doing it, right? If my husband's better at cooking, then let him cook. If he's better at doing the grocery store shopping, that's fine with me, I don't care. And so I did the finances in our household, and years ago, which was also the investing. And years ago, I was in charge of that, and I made a mistake, and it cost us money. And at the time, for us, it was a lot of money. This was years and years ago. And so I've never enjoyed doing it again. I don't like investments. My husband does it very, very well. We've had financial advisors where we'll have them look, and they're like, wow, he's made good choices and decisions for you guys. So he does that. But what I would tell you with the 401k is, if your company is matching, if your company says we'll match up to 6%, but you're only at 3% now, I would do what I could to get to that 6%. Okay, because that's free money. That is free money. But if you did have more money, so for example, Randy and I, obviously we're still investing in our 401ks, and we max out, right? Because of our age. Even with our age, you can do a little bit more than like your age, because once I think it's after over 50 or 55. So we have other investments. I would be happy to share those with you, but I don't know what those are right now. I know certain company names, but I really just don't get into it because I don't enjoy it from all those years ago when I made that. But you could look at, I would recommend that you see a financial advisor. And you'll see in the clip, but I will tell you this, and I have no ones that I could send you to. We always have a list of people that I don't refer anyone that I haven't personally worked with.
Okay.
Right? Because when I was in business, and I know like Kit talked about owning a business at some point, when you're in business, people come to you, oh, they're just wanting to throw you to take their business cards and send people your way. Well, I don't know if you're a good painter. I don't know if you're a good whatever you are. So I always referred people that I worked with, I knew, and that I trusted. But when you go to a financial advisor, if you have debt and they do not say to you, look, Ashley, first pay off your debt, then let's invest, go to a different advisor, because that's what they should be telling you. A lot of my clients I got from financial advisors because people would come to them and say, I want to invest. And they'd say, yeah, but look at all this debt you have. Pay off that debt, then come back and see me and invest that $2,800. I'd rather be investing $2,800 than $200, knowing that you're going to be in debt for the rest of your life. So that is what I would recommend.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And Ashley, I would like to just say that if my son didn't have a girlfriend, I would suggest he dates you, because you are a young person who really is totally on the right track. And Sherry, you would attest that the early money is the best money. So kudos to you, really. And the one thing I wanted to mention that my husband and I have run into, of course, we're very close to retirement, but we've gone through the financial advisors, and the interesting thing we got is how much is it going to cost for our children to go to college and stuff like that. The problem that we ran into is, so if you go through a brokerage company, they won't give you tax advice. And at the stage that my husband and I are in, and as you get older, Ashley, you're going to find this out. When you do have a mortgage, and or you own your home outright, you need tax advisors. And my husband and I are desperately in search of one, Sherry, if you know anyone with that, because we do enjoy the beauty that we're at a point in our lives where we can invest. But when you go to, like, we were at Goldman Sachs for 15 years, and I was paying a higher commission. Like, I had somebody else look at it and they're like, holy cow, what are you getting for this? Because I got to the point where I wasn't trading stock anymore because it was so expensive in our account. And so that money was just sitting there. So your money in your 401k, there's commissions that are just hidden for you. But if you can do that, you're great. And what Sherry said is, when you get older, you can do makeup payments, which I beg my husband every single time we talk about finances to do that. It's just a simple call to his human resource department, and he hasn't done it yet. So it gets easier when you get older, but for you starting so young, you're going to be set for life, I think. I would say, Sherry, you'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we live on less than 30% of our income.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's after taxes. So we're saving like 70%, because again, I don't have a mortgage payment, I don't have a car payment, I don't have, all the other payments. But if you were to average just $25,000 a year income, which I'm sure each and every one of you will average more than that, especially with having a college degree, and over your working lifetime, you will have made $1 million. But yet the vast majority of people that are getting into retirement age have less than $2,500 in the savings. They say that by the time you're 50, when you're the day you turn 50, whatever your income is, let's say I make $50,000 a year, I should have 5 times that in the saving in my retirement account. Most people do not. Most people do not.
Well, thank you. Really appreciate you. And Karen, thank you. That was so funny about the boyfriend thing.
Well, I'll tell you one other thing I learned is when you get a raise, say you get like a 4% increase, and you've learned to live off of your income, either just bump your 401k up that 4%, Or else, like I tell our children who are college students, you know, take 2% of that and bump it up in your 401k, but enjoy that extra 2% out of that raise. So you really feel like you know, it's worth something after working so hard for a year. And it took me about 10 years to make my husband do that, you know. So if you can, you know, like Sherry said, if you can do this, you can go golfing 3 times. You know, you just got to get on your grips. I think she gave very good advice. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you very
I
much.
have one question too, and it's more of just like advice. And as I learn more about this, the more and more it feels like I'm trying to climb up a wall when it comes to me trying to get to the end goal of owning my own farm. And it's more of a recommendation of what I should do after this entrepreneurial agriculture degree. I'm planning on going on to college to further bachelor's degree, maybe even get a master's to get really, really educated into the field because I'm needing to know a lot of things. And with that debt, there's so much capital that I'm going to need to acquire in order to purchase land in order to be able to start producing things. Would it be a smarter decision to get a job and pay off the student loans first rather than taking on debt to get mortgage on a land? Or would it just be more beneficial for me to maybe just pay them both off at the same time? My biggest worry with it is like agriculture in general. There's a lot of volatility in it, with prices fluctuating up and down constantly, and you can catastrophic windstorms, hailstorms could mess up the crop. You could have diseases go through, and a lot of the stuff I don't want to do commodities, so none of that will be insured by the Farm Bill. So it's more just like any advice that you would maybe be able to
when I know Karina put in the link to the full video. I would watch that because we talk about in terms of debt when you're paying off more than one debt at a time and how that impacts you. You want to, when you're looking at debt elimination, you make the minimum monthly payment to all your creditors except for debt number 1, and you send every extra penny you have, and then you just keep rolling that up. So I think that question will be answered in that video, in the video.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And also, Kit, aren't there, my sister retired and moved to Tennessee, and they know a couple farmers there. And I think there's a lot of different tax breaks for farmers. I think if you look into that, you're going to find a great deal of assistance there that, you know, the average Joe not into agriculture wouldn't know about. I don't know about it, but I would just suggest you kind of looking into that from what I've been learning when I go down there.
Yeah, there is some, especially like federal assistance for people wanting to get into farms because it is a really like stressed industry to get people into, because the average age of the farmer in America, I think, is 67 now. So there's a real push for younger generations to get into farming because who's going to grow all of our food? But I think it really varies by area, and it really depends on what you're growing. Because like corn and soybeans, it's all insured by the federal government and stuff like that. But if I wanted to grow, and none of that's sustainable. So if I want to do a sustainable method, it's going to be a lot of figuring out.
Well, again, thank you all so much for joining us. I think you all know how to get a hold of me. It is sridge@mchenry.edu. If there's anything I can help you with at any time while you're at MCC and after you leave MCC, feel free to reach out. Karen, I will get a couple of names for tax advisor to you. I'm going to reach out to our accounting department chair and see if she has what contacts she has.
Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate all of you for being able to attend. Appreciate Sherry being able to spend this time with us and share some of the budgeting info. Our next success coach meeting will be in November, so be on the lookout. It will be relating to First Gen, so if you don't know what that is, be on the lookout. There will be more information and flyers out for that. Otherwise, everyone take care and have a great day.
Bye,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thank you.